Accepted ആണ്. ഞാൻ അത് അവരെ കൊടുത്തിരിക്കുന്നത്. പക്ഷെ എനിക്കൊന്നും കേൾക്കുന്നില്ല.
Shall we start?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Am I audible?
Yes.
Hello? Hello?
Yes, you're audible.
Hello, am I audible?
Yes.
Hello?
Hello? Abhishek, you're audible.
Hello? Hello?
Abhishek, I can hear you perfectly. You can continue speaking.
Okay, okay, miss. Okay. A very hot good afternoon to everyone. It's the third day of the Aloft International webinar on the theme Dislocations and Fragmented Identities, Social Work Responses. Today, we have the third paper presentation on the topic Mental Health and Fragmentation. Our vibrant presenters are Anusriya Valsakumar, Devika Nikhil, Kirti Chandran, Lita Merinjos. I welcome all of you to the program. And the moderator of today's presentation is our beloved Dr. K.K. Bovensa, Assistant Professor, Department of Social Work, Main Center Kaladi. Welcome, sir. Also, I welcome our respected HOD, Dr. Jose Antony, Dr. Reshma Bharadwaj, our faculties, and all the participants to the session. So let's begin, and I hand over the session to the moderator, Bovensa. Sir. Hello, Bovensa. Hello.
Hello. Is it audible?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Just a minute.
So, okay, it's audible now? Abhishek?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We can hear you.
Okay, thank you. So there's some technical issues there. That's why.
Okay, sir. It's fine.
Okay, all the formalities are over, no?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, I'm invited. Okay, this is the fourth day of our international webinar, Aloft, right? So it's themed on dislocations and fragmented identities, social work responses. Actually, this fragmentation means we everything know something that describes the separation or division of something into pieces or fragments, right? So we know we all Indians are very often and very much proud of our unity in diversity. Of course, it shows certain kind of what I can say is certain kind of cohesiveness, bring in our social interactions, a type of social bonding. Just think, if we are losing this social bonding out of our social life, what will happen? The result is nothing but the diversity, right? Diversity means what? It's fragmentation only. This is what happens in social adversities, whatever it may be. There may be a displacement, maybe a war, disasters, even simply a social rejection. This is what happens, fragmentations. So that's why the seminar is themed on dislocations and fragmented identities, and we are discussing on it. So we are now on the platform of our third session of paper presentation. And our theme is today is mental health and fragmentation. Actually, what is there between mind and fragmentation? Do anyone have a think of this? Many things. I think many things are there. I believe basically fragmentation begins in our ego state very first, right? A type of feeling of an instability or a conflictual situation that can lead into a dissociation later. That means the last day, Baiju sir also was telling about this regarding a disidentification. Actually, the disidentification also is leading to dissociation only. Otherwise, it's then leads to assimilation. Actually, this fragmented self and identity construction is a common theme that we can see in many of our movies, mostly in Malayalam, and also the literary works. Wherever we are going, this kind of fragmented self and identity construction is very well discussed in literary articles and this kind of celluloid experiences. So disregarding the purely psychological aspects of the term fragmentation, we can argue that everyone feels this fragmentation at some point of our daily life, no? I feel so. So need not to worry about any feel of fragmentation, because today we are having 4 brilliant speakers with us with their academic convictions. Ms. Anusri A. Valsakumar, Bharatidasan University, and Devika Nikhil. Devika Nikhil is reported. Is Devika there?
No, sir.
No. Okay. So then Kirti S. Chandran from Sri Shankaracharya University Sanskrit. Lita Marin also from the University of Sanskrit, Kerala. So Anusri A. Valsakumar, she's basically from the social work department of Bharatidasan University, Tiruchirappalli. She is presenting on mental health and adjustment problems among dislocated primary school students. That is a case study based on the CBSE schools at Kaduthuruthi block of Kottayam district. Then Lita Marin is talking about resilient coping among Dalit adolescents. Again, Kirti S. Chandran is coming with a movie analysis, depression and suicide in dislocated minds. So here is the platform is now open for the presentation. You have 20 minutes maximum for presentation. Now I invited Anusri Valsakumar. After the presentation, all the presentation, we can go into the discussion. So every participants be with the presenters, because we all know this is the platform we have to get experience with this kind of academic experiences. So support all the presenters here. So firstly, I invite Anusri Valsakumar to talk about mental health and adjustment problem among dislocated primary school students. We all know you are just beginners in the platform, need not to worry about it, and be relaxed and cool. Anusri?
Yes, sir. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon. You can present now.
Okay, sir. Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. First of all, I extend my sincere gratitude to all those who are conducting this international webinar. I consider this as a golden opportunity for me to present a paper in front of eminent personalities. I am Anusri Valsakumar. I belong to Thalaivalapparambu, Kottayam district. I am pursuing my postgraduate degree in social work from Bharatidasan University, Trichy. My title is Mental Health and Adjustment Problems Among Dislocated Primary School Students, a case study on CBSE schools of Kaduthuruthi block, Kottayam district. So let's look into the presentation. WHO defines mental health as a state of well-being in which the individual realizes his or her own abilities, can cope with the normal stresses of life, can work productively and fruitfully, and is able to make a contribution to his or her community. Here the introduction to my topic. Students are the assets of a nation. so their mental well-being is utmost important. My paper studies the issues that affect primary class students when they are abruptly shifted to a new learning environment. I have chosen three CBSE school students who were switched from Kerala board to CBSE. This affects cognitive development of the students and creates mental illness like anxiety, depression, loneliness, etc. The sudden dislocation creates void in the student's life. These are the sources from which I have collected resources for my paper. My prime objective is to know the psychosocial adjustment problems of the students when they are dislocated from Kerala board to CBSE, and to provide suitable suggestions and social work interventions for the well-being of the respondent. It was a qualitative analysis. I have taken primary school students who were dislocated from state syllabus to CBSE schools in Kadupurthi block. 3 samples were selected in this case study analysis. I used interview method to collect the data. Now we will move on to the results I have obtained from the case study analysis. The first student is a 10-year-old girl, had been studying in 5th standard at St. Joseph's English Medium School, Kiru. She belongs to a middle-class family and living along with her parents and siblings in a nuclear family. When her friends moved to a CBSE school, she wished to do the same. She became more stressful due to the project work. Her anxiety steadily began to build, and she was diagnosed with involuntary somatic symptoms like headache and severe anxiety. The stress she faced in a very early age affected her cognitive development negatively. From the study, I understood that the child needs proper guidance and family support to emotionally cope up with the situation and overcome the problem. Everyone should encourage her and help her to develop confidence. The next student is a 9-year-old girl and studying in 4th standard at Sri Saraswati Vidya Mandir, Karikol. She belongs to a middle-class family and living along with her parents in a nuclear family. She was switched to CBSE school as her parents believed that a CBSE school can only provide standard to their child. The new learning atmosphere makes her stressful and resulted in poor academic performances. Being a single child, there was nobody to share her feelings with. This resulted in symptoms of depression in her. The study revealed that the adjustment problems and stressful thoughts make her more anxious and develop feelings of loneliness in her. So proper counseling should be provided to the child as well as to the parents. The third student is an 11-year-old boy studying in 6th standard at St. Kuriakos Public School, Kadupurthi. His parents are NRIs. He was born and brought up in UK. In order to develop Kerala culture in him, his parents had brought him to Kerala and sought admission in a state school. He had been looked after by his grandparents. The parents had shifted him to a CBSE school because they felt a metamorphosis in his character, while he was in a state school. The new situation was more challenging as he was unable to adjust with the rules and regulations of the institution. The curtailment of his freedom and forceful dislocation resulted in anger, learning disorder, etc. in the child. The analysis revealed that parental care and attention is an important factor for the cognitive development and personality traits of children. Lack of emotional guidance and attention had led him to this crisis. Parental counseling should be given to the family for making them aware about the psychosocial well-being of the child. These are the major findings of my study. The dislocated students face difficulty in adjusting with a new learning environment. Dislocation affects the cognitive development and mental well-being of the student. The sudden switching to a new learning environment creates anxiety, loneliness, symptoms of depression, and insomnia among students. These problems in turn lead to poor academic grades and the child becomes an underachiever in the class. I have some suggestions and recommendations as part of the case study analysis I have done. Those are demographic characteristics and family environment is the important factor for psychosocial well-being of students. Parents have to provide better care, love, attention towards students for their proper cognitive development. Role of school counselors very important for the well-being of students. The school management should appoint and provide the services of school counselor. Parental counseling and they make them aware about the problems of students through social workers. So, schools provide the recreational activities and foster a friendly and inclusive environment for the positive development of personality and well-being. Implement a positive approach to behavior management and establish proactive policies addressing well-being and inclusion, thereby more students' resilience and self-efficacy from initial level. In conclusion, we can say that students are the backbone of a nation. Their upliftment benefits the country a lot. The present study enabled me to realize various problems faced by the students when they suddenly dislocated to a new school. The students face anxiety, depression, and adjustment issues in a new school. It may affect their mental well-being and also hinder cognitive development. These are the sources which help me to collect data. Thank you for your patient listening.
So over to Anusri. Thank you, Anusri. So it was a nice and very short presentation. Normally it seems I'm audible to you, no?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay. Normally it is so adaptive for a person to be able to alter his or her self when the existing social structure is no longer adaptive. But when the person means here the student is facing with an adversity of life, that means he's dislocating from the state of state syllabus to CBSE school. He may be finding their previous self is no more, like, no longer helpful and is in conflict with the situation, the particular situation he is facing. And his identity may well undergo a fragmentation of the prior self when exploring a new identity. As Anusri told, he's undergoing certain kind of metamorphosis in his life situation. In this way, Anusri was trying to explain the various psychosocial issues of dislocated children in the school or educational setting. So it was a very nice presentation. Now, Devika is not there, no?
No, sir.
No. So now I would like to invite Ms. Kirti S. Chandran to present her paper on depression and fragmentation that leading to suicide based on some movie analysis. Kirti? Kirti was signed in, no?
Yes, sir.
Okay, you may present now. Ms. Kirti S. Chandran is at present, she is undergoing her first semester MSW in Sri Shankaracharya University of Sanskrit, Department of Social Work. And this is her very first attempt to work on this particular area. And she's working very enthusiastically on this particular paper. Now, Kirti is on the platform.
Sir, can you see my presentation?
Sure, Kirti. It is here. It's visible.
Okay. Good afternoon to all. Myself Kirti Chandran, first year MSW of Sri Shankaracharya University of Sanskrit, Kaladi. I'm very grateful to Aloft for giving me this wonderful opportunity. So I'm moving to my paper, presentation, and this is my topic: depression and suicide in dislocated minds. So secondary analysis on a movie. In this introduction, we all know that depression is a serious mental illness that can interfere with a person's life. It can cause long-lasting and severe feelings of sadness, hopelessness, and a loss of interest in activities. It is a leading cause of disability worldwide and is major contributor to the all-over global burden of disease. And women are affected by depression than men. It is estimated that 3.8% of the population affected, and including means 3.8 of them, 5% among adults and 5.7% among adults older than 60 years. It can cause the affected person to suffer greatly and function poorly in school and in family. It was depression leads to suicide. So it is the fourth leading cause of death in 15 to 29-year-old, although there are no effective treatments for mental disorder. More than 75% of people in low and middle income countries receive no treatment. Barriers to effective care includes a lack of resources, lack of trained healthcare providers, social stigma associated with mental disorders. We know that depression leads to suicide, and these are the symptoms and patterns that how we can identify a suicidal person or depressed person. They show symptoms like loss of pleasure, of interest in activities, poor concentration, feeling of excessive guilt or low self-worth, hopelessness about future, thoughts about dying or suicide, disrupted sleep, changes in appetite or weight, and feeling tired or low in energy. In some uh, in some cultural contexts, they also express mood changes in forms of bodily symptoms, difficulty in personal, family, social, educational, occupational, and other important areas of functioning. Single episode depressive disorder. These are the types of disorders: single, recurrent, and bipolar disorders. Single episode depressive disorder means a person's first and only episode. Recurrent depressive disorder, at least they experience two depressive episodes. And bipolar disorder is shows euphoria or irritability, increased activity or energy, increased talkativeness, raising thoughts, decreased sleep, distractibility, increased self-esteem, impulsive, reckless behavior. And these are the diagnosis and treatment, how we can treat a depressive suicidal person. For that, school-based programs should enhance a pattern of positive coping, mainly in children and adolescents. Interventions for parents of children with behavioral problems may reduce parental depressive symptoms and improve outcomes for their children. Excessive programs for older persons can also be effective in depressive prevention. Healthcare providers may offer psychological treatments such as behavioral activation, cognitive behavioral therapy, and interpersonal psychotherapy, and antidepressant medication. Antidepressants, we know that they are the treatment for depression, so they should not be used for treating depression in children, and are not the first line of treatment in adolescents, among whom they should be used with extra cautions. This is the WHO, World Health Organization response on depression and suicide. This is a graph showing data quality of age standardized suicide rate 2019. Here we can see the dark color of countries with the high rates of suicide. Then WHO's Mental Health Action Plan 2013 to 30 highlights the steps required to provide appropriate interventions for people with mental disorders, including depression. It is one of the priority conditions covered by WHO's Mental Health Gap Action Program. They aim to help countries increase service for people with mental, neurological, and substance use disorders through care provided by health workers who are not specialized in mental health. WHO has developed a brief psychological intervention manuals for depression that may be delivered by lay workers to individuals and group. Example, it's the Problem Management Plus manual, which describes the use of behavioral activation, stress management problem, solving treatment and strengthening social support. Moreover, describes group groups and moreover, the group interpersonal therapy for depression manual describes group treatment of depression. Finally, the Thinking Health manual covers the use of cognitive behavioral therapy for perinatal depression. These are the manuals given by WHO on the depression and suicide. Now, these are the causes and how to identify them. The main causes are brain chemistry, hormones, inherited traits. Brain chemistry, the function of neurotransmitters. We know the neurotransmitters, they are the brain chemicals to play a main role in depression. So they function and involved in maintaining mood stability. So they play a very important role in depression and its treatment. Now it's hormones, changes in the body balance, changes in the body balance of hormones. They cause also triggering depression. Next is inherited traits, more common in people with the blood relatives. Still, there are researchers trying to find genes that is causing depression. Now, these are how to identify them. Their warning signs: focus on death, makes plans, becomes withdrawn, shows despair, shows swings in mood, sleep, drinks or take drugs, act recklessly. So first one is warning sign. Warning sign shows that they are warning signs are shows by those people who commit suicide, but they don't want to die, but just to end their pain. So they dismiss, say, don't dismiss their talk of suicide, but they just show as through suicide or depression as threat. If we see someone that has the tendency to suicide, we should help themselves. Next is focused on death. Then these are the people who continuously focus on death. Some people talk openly about wanting or to die or to commit suicide, or they dwell on the topic of death or dying. So they try to kill themselves by a gun, knife, or pills, or hanging, etc. Next is they make plans. These persons prepare for death, like giving their stuffs and saying goodbyes to others. Some even write suicide notes. We have seen in newspapers and daily in news that some wrote suicidal notes. Then next is becomes withdrawn. They have a tendency to avoid close friends, family, loses interest in activities and social incomes, and they become isolated from family, society, their friends, everything which they are close to. Next is shows despair. These persons may talk openly about pain, that is unbearable pain, feeling that they are like burden for others. They also shows what moods changes in moods or sleeps. They also are anxious, sad, or angry. They also may be irritable, moody, or aggressive, but they can be suddenly calm once they decided to go through the suicide. Next is shows swings on mood, sleep. These are the people with the depression, high depressed, anxious, sad, or angry. They are moody and aggressive. but they can suddenly, sorry, I've read it. Next is drinks or takes drugs. Um, we know that these substances cause a chance of suicide. So intake of lot of drugs and alcohol cause them to, they feel that these things dull their pain, so they try to harm themselves. Next is act recklessly. This person have dangerous chances like drunk drive, etc. So these are the warning signs and how to identify them. Next is movie analysis. Mm, First, the movie I took was Captain. Captain is a Malayalam biological sports drama by Prajesh. This movie stars Jayasuriya, Anusitara, Ranji Panikar in the lead roles. It takes us through the life of VP Satin, who took the Indian football team to another level. The film is a visual window into the life of Indian captain VP Satin's personal life, his struggles, depression, and finally death. Uh, we all know that VP Satyan, once he was the Indian football team captain, now he is no more because he is was isolated. Sorry, he was dislocated as from his career, and he fell into depression. Here, the director has used a non-linearity in the screenplay that grounds mainly focus on Satyan's battles outside the football ground. The main role played by Satyan was Jayasuriya, so his performance was of top notch. He succeeds in inducing the pain on screen that VP Satyan has suffered, that the legendary footballer had to go through his life. When Coach Jafar, played by Renji Panikar, says, ഒരു കളിക്കാരന്റെ മേൽവിലാസം മൈതാനമാണ്. The footballer field is the address of a player. It encapsulates the essence of a footballer's philosophy. It gives a good insight into the life of the unsung hero who committed suicide by throwing himself in the front of a train in Chennai. The film capitalizes on the average Malayali's love for football, the kind of love that makes Satyan tell his wife in the first day of wedding, I will divorce you if you come against my first love of football on his first night after wedding. He also captures well his final days when he's compelled to depression due to his leg injury. It is a great movie about VP Satyan. Next is Chichor. This was a fabulous movie once a time. Till now, it's going very well. In Chichor, Sushant Singh Rajput played the role of a teen's dad. His son tries to end his life on finding out that he has not qualified the IIT. And as a father, Sushant narrates the story of his college days, which has a lesson on how no one is a loser. The film follows the hostel life of Sushant and his 6 friends and gives us the glimpse of the story of how, once branded as losers, they fight to earn the respect of the same individuals who branded them as losers. The movie says that the suicide is not the solution to problems. This is also a great movie. Here, his son, when he did not get admission in IIT, he commits suicide from his friend of house. Then his father, that's SSR, he played a very well character in the movie. Next is Ramanan. You all know that Ramanan, written by Changampulla Krishna Pilla. This film was released on 1967 and the screen adaptation of the poetical work of the poet Changampulla, which was published in 1936. It was written after the tragic death of his friend Edappalli Raghavan Pillai in 1936, and the cause was the love failure in the life of the young poet. This tragedy upset Changampulla soon after he recovered from the shock and collected his thoughts in tranquility to return Ramanan. Ramanan, played by Prem Nasir and Madanan Madhu, are the two shepherds who are blossom pals. Ramanan used to sing and play the flute as he led the flock to the pastures. Chandrika, played by Sheila, the daughter of the wealthy advocate Peshkar, played by Kotem Chalapan, get fascinated by his voice. Then Madanan, his friend, warns Ramanan about the treacherous way of the wealthy and advertises him to keep away from Chandrika. But her aristocratic parents prevents Chandrika from meeting Ramanan, though she stood by him at first, but she changes her mind and agrees to marry Rajan, Ramu Karyat, that her parents choose for her. So the broken-hearted Ramanan hangs himself on the tree at the hilltop where they used to meet and at the day of their wedding of Chandrika. Now this uh, trans was released on I think 2020. Vijay Prasad, played by Fazil, is a motivational speaker living with his mentally unstable younger brother Kunyan. When he commits suicide, Vijay is devastated and relocates to Mumbai. The suicide of Kunyan completely changes him. So he moves to Mumbai, and there he met Kavita, and he met Solomon Davis and Isaac Thomas. There he is transformed to Joshua Cartland and successfully transforms into the character of a pastor. He captures the devotion of many and helps Solomon Isaac's enterprise grow into a global phenomenon. By the time, as the day passes by, he faces an accident and remains in coma for 2 days. He then goes into a psychedelic trance and revives, making a miraculous recovery. But suspecting that Joshua is mentally ill, Solomon and Isaac agree to share the profit. They appoint a model and sex worker named Esther Lopez, played by Nasria Nassim, to observe him and determine whether his illness is an act. She herself has a past of being cheated in a relationship, giving birth to a child, falling into depression, um, and then coming into a profession. In this movie, there is glimpses of Nasria showing herself, picture of the child, her past, etc. She eventually close to Joshua, believes that he is really unstable. Avrajan tries to convince Joshua that Esther has a figment of his imagination. He acquitted from his crimes due to his mental state, and he spends at a rehabilitation center. He recovers and learns that Esther is in a fact and a real person, and set out to Amsterdam to find her. He finds her in one of the glass cubicles in red light area in the Amsterdam. She was a sex worker in his back life, so she continues his job when she settles in Amsterdam. After the recovery, Fahad Wasel uh, finds her, and there ends the story. Now, this is three. It's a wonderful movie produced by Aishwarya Dhanush. The movie starts with Ram, played by Dhanush, funeral. The film starts by Janani Studi Hassan hallucinating about him running away, and the story flashes back to the 12th standard where the love story begins. They get married after 6 years of life despite the opposition from their parents. After his death, she reminds of a friend Senthil who was with him when her family decides to move to US before they get married. And his other friend Kumaran, played by Shiva Karthikeyan, got a job in Singapore at the time. Upon finding that his two friends have moved on, he hallucinates and almost drowns when he tries to swim past a beach, but saved by Senthil. Later, on a day when Ram took a 2.2 crores low, he kicks and kills Tom, dead dog. These are the incidents after their marriage. This leads Senthil to consult a doctor and notices him, the doctor, being strange, having extreme emotions. So the doctor reveals it as the bipolar disorder, that is extreme depression, and if not treated, he could lead this to suicide. But Ram refuses to get admitted because of his love towards Janani. After a while, he, in a manic state, tries to kill Janani, but is stopped by Senthil. And this makes Ram feel very guilty. So Ram goes to Janani's bedroom and watches her sleep. He suddenly hallucinates seeing a young girl saying, either kill her or you die. Terrified, he immediately goes to his office and writes a suicide note while the hallucinations continue. Ram grabs a knife and struggles to kill himself. The film ends with the Ram slitting his throat, saying his final words, "I love you, Janani." And the movie includes a message in the end that suicide is not a solution, and this bipolar disorder can be treated well with proper medical help. This bipolar disorders that is play a great role in showing the symbol a nuke of his acting as a bipolar depressant. Next, this is the role of social workers in development. Social worker can play an important role by teaching people to recognize when they need support, help them, and to find it, thereby enable them to reduce their suicide risk. They also can discuss the person about other distractions. They could ask to get involved in physical activities, to write down his or her thoughts in a diary, to give a suicide prevention helpline number, and regular contact with him or her till they reach a level of no suicide risk. Saying about helpline number, there is a national suicide prevention lifeline at 800-273-8255. It's always open, and we could speak to a counselor. Now, social worker should refer the suicidal person to a mental health care center where residential care is available, because he or she may require inpatient psychiatric care. Uh, she or he can perform multiple roles in suicide, such as gatekeeper, caseworker, clinician, counselor, psychotherapist, community worker, coordinator, research or trainer, etc. They can develop suicide prevention policies and programs. They could also play an important role in counseling patients and their families about risk factors related to the means of suicide. They could be a good listener and pay full attention, be non-judgmental, be supportive, and instill hope, offer help, building a contract that he or she will, that is suicide person will not do anything to kill himself or herself till social worker else help. Then working with the other health and the mental health clinics is also required in the process. Identifying and treating psychiatric illness is another important factor in suicide prevention. Has to consider confidentiality and privacy aspects when planning to enhance social support. Social workers, they not only with the work with the individuals, but also with the wider social networks to support services users effectively. They also can use other components of casework to help the suicidal person. So it is very important to work with suicide survivors so they could prevent suicide in future also. Next is identifying and working with vulnerable groups, that is LGBTQ, sex workers. Then we know that farmers are committing suicide these days. So these are some vulnerable groups. So it is very important in suicide prevention. Then awareness creation about suicide and suicide prevention, addressing myths and misconception about it, and stigma associated to suicide and mental illness are very important. Now I have arrived to my conclusion. So suicidal depression is a mental state where people, especially in teenagers from 15 to 29, tend to lose their lives on various reasons. They could due to several reasons mentioned above. We have discussed it above. So it is a fact that India stands in the 5th position in suicidal depression on all over the world. Even though we are rich in education, culture, well-settled jobs and family, with the people experience certain situations where they highly feel isolated. So they choose to lose their lives as a solution to those problems above. That we should identify these people who are high risk, and should make them aware that suicide is not a solution to their problems, and should help them, and help them to build a new life. And also we can teach them to embrace themselves so they could build a new life and stay happy. And thank you.
Thank you, Kirti. I think in schizophrenia,
Sir, you are not audible. You are muted.
now it's audible, no?
Yes, sir.
Okay, actually it was not muted by me, the host only. Okay. Schizophrenia means the literal roots meaning is known as broken mind. Once the presentation by Kirti was telling me like that. So fragmentation of self is a schizophrenic event like that. Is it so? Means we are losing certain kind of relatedness of our various ego parts in such as fragmentation of self or fragmentation of mind happens. So while Sigmund Freud in his theory of ego defense mechanism referred to fragmentation as a part of an internal catastrophe in a psychotic decompensation of self. The loss of this relatedness of various ego parts, not the ego as a single object. So our ego is constructed with various parts of ego. In that way, when we are losing that, previously I told the cohesiveness between the various parts of society, we are going into fragmentation like that. Similarly, the same way, the various ego parts of our ego is getting lost its cohesiveness or bonding. We are leading to a fragmented situation, and whatever the situation or mental struggles we are passing through, that will lead finally to depression and to suicide. All the heroes mentioned by the analysis was covering through such a mental struggle as part of their fragmentation of self, and going to finally depression and suicide. So anyway, that is giving a good message to all. Suicide is not any solution for anything. Okay, nice presentation, Kirti. Now we are moving to Lita Marin. Lita Marin is currently the research scholar of Department of Social Work, Sri Shankaracharya University of Sanskrit. She is presenting on her topic was on resilience, resilient coping among the Dalit adolescents. She's actually working with that area, and now she's presenting on the various coping resilient strategies among Dalit adolescents. Now I invite Lita Marin. Lita?
Yes, sir.
Okay, now this is your chance.
Thank you, sir.
Lita, any technical issue?
Yes, sir. It's gone open.
Presentation?
No, sharing the screen.
No, it's we're not visible here.
Oh.
Have you sent the presentation to the host?
Yeah, 1 minute, sir.
Vijay?
Is it gone, sir?
It's not gone. It's not visible here.
Oh,
If you send that to particular presentation to the host desk, they will present.
yeah.
They
I
will
just
share.
sent it to the host, but it's not working.
Vijay?
Ma'am, there is a mail ID of PR team. You can send it to that mail ID.
In the chat box?
PR team. I will
PR
send
team. Okay. Oh,
that
one
mail.
second.
Okay. It's available in the chat box now.
Okay, sir.
Have you made any separate presentation for this one, Lita? Or the total work you have done? The full paper, no?
Separate presentation is separate, sir.
PPT was there. Okay.
Yeah,
Then
PPT
just to
is
send
there.
it to there. Just to
Yeah,
send.
I just sent. If you could please mention.
Okay. Vijay? Vijay, could you check whether it is accepted or not there?
It is seen in the send mail.
Sorry, Lita.
It was sent.
Sent already.
Yeah.
Vijay Lakshmi?
Hello.
Could you just check whether it is received or not there in the mailbox?
Sure, sir.
Okay. Yeah, it is received in the mailbox. Could you just share that one?
Hello?
It's received in the, it is there in the mailbox.
Hello, am I audible?
Yeah, audible, yeah.
Okay, it will take a few seconds. Please kindly cooperate.
Okay. Is it visible now, Abhishek?
Yes, sir.
It's visible?
Yes, yes, yes.
Yes,
Sir.
sir. Yes, sir. We can see.
Okay, I will play from here. Okay.
Yeah, thank you, sir.
Okay, you may proceed now.
Yes, I will introduce myself again. My name is Lita Marin Thomas, and I am a research scholar in the same department of this university. And I am presenting my paper on resilient coping among Dalit adolescents in Ernakulam district. That is the title of my study. And the major objectives of my study are to study the levels of resilient coping among Dalit students and to compare the levels of resilient coping with respect to socio-demographic characteristics. Next slide. The context and significance of the study. The scheduled caste and scheduled tribes are the most disadvantaged socioeconomic groups in India. They were made refugees in their own country due to the inhuman caste system, and still now most of them remains landless. In modern literature, the scheduled caste are referred to as Dalit, which means the broken or scattered, and the term was popularized by Dr. B.R. Ambedkar. The common problems faced by them are humiliation, such as insult, harassment, threats, etc., and social discrimination and cultural discrimination, civil disabilities like educational, religious, economical, and political, etc. Though the Indian Constitution abolished untouchability, the oppressed status of Dalits remains a reality. According to Human Rights Watch for 2007, the treatment of Dalit has been like a hidden apartheid, and that they endure segregation in housing, schools, and access to public services. According to 2011 census, the scheduled caste comprise about 16.6% of the total population of India, while in Kerala it is 9.10%. There are 69 subdivisions of scheduled caste in Kerala according to the list of scheduled caste in India. Even after independence, Dalits are still facing discrimination against achieving the basic human rights, and they can be called as the modern day slaves. According to Carl Jung, the collective unconscious is a psychic residue of evolutionary development that accumulated as a consequence of repeated experiences of many generations. Due to such continuous oppression suffered in the past, they are still in the psychological trauma which inhibits the development of resilience. Individual resilience refers to the ability of a person to successfully adapt to or recover from the stressful and traumatic experience. Resilient coping is the tendency to cope with stress adaptively and focuses on the tendency to effectively use coping strategies in flexible and committed ways to actively solve problems despite stressful circumstances, according to Sinclair and Watson in 2004. And the method of data collection that I was used, the major tool was used a structured questionnaire consisting of socio-demographic profile and brief resilient coping scale BRCS developed by Sinclair and Watson in 2004, which consists of 4 items. And sampling procedure is 25 adolescent school children from scheduled caste community in the age group of 13 to 18 from Ernakulam district of Kerala state by using purposive sampling technique. And about the data analysis, the levels of resilient coping among Dalit adolescents are represented in 3 levels as high, medium, and low level of resilient coping. Here, 60% of the Dalit adolescents are in medium resilient group, and 20% of them are in low resilient group, and 20% of them are in high resilient group. Next. The age-wise distribution of Dalit adolescents constitutes 40% as younger and 60% constitute the older group. While comparing the younger and older, the younger ones, among the younger, 30% of them are in high resilient group, 40% of them are in medium resilient group, and 30% of them are in low resilient group. And based on the gender-wise distribution, constitute boys 64% and girls 36%. And while comparing the level of resilient coping among boys and girls, boys constitute 18.75% in higher resilient group, while girls 22.22%. In the case of median resilient group, boys are 75%, while girls 33.33%. And in the case of low resilient corpus, 6.25 is for boys and 44.44 for girls. And based on the area of living, it is classified as rural and urban. Rural constitute 84% and urban constitute only 16%. And the level of resilient coping among the rural and urban. In rural, 23.8% are in high resilient group, 57.14 are in medium resilient group, and 19.04 are in low resilient group, while in urban, there is no cases reported in the high resilient group. And in medium, it is 75%, and for the low resilient corpus, it is 25%. Next slide. It is the distribution based on social isolation. Some of the Dalit adolescent students are reported as they are socially isolated in the participation of some social activities, and 68% of them are told that they were isolated, and 32% of them are said they are not isolated in any way. And the level of resilient coping are listed as 23.52% are in high resilient group, 64.7 as in medium, and 11.76 as in low. While in the statement of they are not affected by social isolation, 12.5% are in high resilient group, 50% are in medium resilient group, and 37.5% are in low resilient group. Next slide. About the cultural discrimination faced by the Dalit adolescents, they told us they are culturally discriminated as 44%, and those who are not affected 56%. And when comparing the levels of resilient coping among them, those who are said they are affected by cultural discrimination as 18.18 as high resilient group, 63.63 as medium resilient group, 18.18 as high low resilient group, while those who are not affected cultural discrimination as 25% of them are said they are in the high resilient group, 50% of them are in medium resilient group, and 25% of them are in low resilient group. Then going to the results from the study, it was observed that there is a large majority, 80% of the Dalit adolescents need psychosocial support to develop high resilient coping skills. In a study about Dalit children by Dr. Rajiv Ranjan remarked, adjustment is a learned behavior, not an innate quality. It is a continuous and indispensable process and is necessarily determined by the norms of the society. And researchers has shown that self-control is one of the important elements in the psychological health, which gives the competence to cope with stressful events, according to Ronan and Rosenberg in 2010. According to Folkman, 2008, coping is regarded as an internal mechanism within the individual, which includes a major way to manage diverse situations in life and to master over environment and the internal conflicts, and thus to develop resilience. There was a significant difference between younger and older adolescents on resilient coping, which indicates the need for continuous intervention to promote psychological adjustment among the younger adolescents in schools. In a study, Justin Pallikal-Jones remarked, Dalit children perceive substantial level of negative self-image and moderate amount of discrimination, and the study states that identity-induced stigma and discrimination in Dalit children led to psychosocial disability and social exclusion. Another study reveals that resilient adolescents had a higher scores on problem-solving coping strategies, according to Dumont and Provost. Many schools now focus to start developmental projects on building resilience with the help of teachers and caregivers. Next slide. 68% of the Dalit adolescents were remarked as they were faced some kind of social isolations, and 44% them exposed to cultural discrimination, which in turn results in the low level of resilient coping. In a research study, Bhavan Singh raised the issue of discrimination in the education system and suggests the restructuring of the education system and sustained effort to transform the attitudes of discrimination into the values of humanity. Also states that discriminatory behavior produces an effect on participation which reduces the performance of Dalit students and sometimes leads to dropouts. According to Retter in 2006, it is important to focus on the relation between risk and protective factors of resilience for a better health of children and adolescents. One more slide, so there suggestion slide. Yeah, yes. Some suggestions made by the researcher are to improve the condition of the Dalit adolescents, are strengthen the Dalit adolescents through psychological motivation to develop resilient coping skills to sustain in high resilience, organize the community to sense regulators given by the Constitution of India, empower them by making confront to fight against the negative discriminations, and finally, the systematic implementation of Dalit social work practices to conscientize the community and thereby to enhance warm and fraternal feelings among the youth. That's it. That's to my presentation. Thank you.
So thank you, Lita. So was little trouble was with the presentation regarding the technical issues. So okay, no problem. So we all have learned through the particular theory of Eric Erikson, psychosocial stages of development. In that particular stage of adolescence, we are seeing that when the self becomes fragmented as part of the natural development during the adolescence into adulthood, when people began to explore who they are in relation to others and in respect to individual interests and competence. Here, Lita is establishing through her presentation how the resilience and coping skills of adolescents needs to be improved for helping them to form an integrated self, because they are lacking certain kind of identity induced stigma because of their social status, like that, something like. So identity versus role conflict, it is clearly visible through her presentation. Anyway, I think this is the last presentation. Devika, Nikhil, still present? Devika? Not, I think. So we are now moving to the discussion. So we were discussing about the fragmentation of self so far. We know the fragmentation of self is something beyond this particular clinical explanations, whatever it is given. Like, it is the lived reality or lived experience of the individuals. Now the platform is open for discussion. We can directly hear from the presenters here, and the audiences are requested to come forward with their queries, comments, whatever it is, clarifications, additions, anything. Otherwise, you can text your questions in the chat box too. Also, if somebody have the trouble with the language, you can ask in Malayalam too. No problem. Please come forward. Now the platform is yours, my dear audience. So I myself asked the first question regarding Anusri's presentation, Anusri Valsakumar. She was presenting on the mental health and adjustmental problems among dislocated primary school students. Anusri, my question is, you are telling about certain kind of metamorphosis of the students while they are getting into the new situation. What all are the various experiences they have shared in that particular stage? Anusri?
Yes, sir.
I think you got my question.
Yes, sir.
So regarding the metamorphosis, what was the shared experience by the students?
So I felt they feel depression, anxiety, loneliness.
Okay. So what is your suggestion regarding this particular thing? How the social work can intervene into solving these particular issues?
Sir,
My question is this one, Anu. Just what are your suggestions regarding the social work intervention to solve all these issues of the students' fragmentation of their selves?
as a social worker, I can provide counseling for both parents and students. I can make aware of the parents the consciousness of the problems they might have due to the sudden dislocation.
Okay. So the audience are also welcome to. Nobody. You can text your questions into the chat box too. No problem. So Anusri, one more question for you here. Why you selected this topic in the particular area?
I have chosen this topic as I had taken tuition for students for 3 years. So from their daily chats, I was already aware about the problems they faced when they are dislocated to a new learning environment.
Okay, anything other than this? Any particular personal interest on this one? Have you had ever gone through this such a situation?
No, sir.
No. Okay.
Hello.
Okay, Dr. Abraham, please.
I'm not sure whether I am audible there. Can you all hear me?
Audible, sir. Audible.
Wonderful. I'm sure some of you may know me. My name is Abraham, and I was so interested in listening to you all, especially the research your students are doing. So amazing to listen to you. First of all, I want to congratulate all the students for actually sharing some of their research work through this platform. I just happened to see it online, so I jumped on and want to see what was happening in Kerala context. So first of all, I want to really say good on you guys. It's wonderful that you're doing fantastic research there, and it's also a great platform to share with the rest of the world. And many of us are really interested in knowing what's happening there. I know my colleague Professor Joss is there. I've looked at, as I think he's there. So I just jumped in just out of my curiosity to know what's happening in Kerala. So I just wanted to really appreciate the great work that you're all doing, and especially I'm interested in the area of mental health and the idea that you're talking about the self. So my question to all the students would be there to ask yourself, why are you doing this this research? What's the impact of this research that's going to have in our society? That's number one. Number two, in terms of your own self as a practitioner, as a student, how is this impacting on yourself? That's number point two. Number three is also looking at what are some of the theoretical perspectives, theoretical understanding, or theoretical positions that you're going to take on this so-called research agenda. Again, the idea someone talked about the resilience and coping resilience. There are ideological positions on these terms. And when drawing on literature from the West, I would say that we have fantastic researchers within India. We do a lot of research. So maybe using our indigenous research to promote our research. So that's just a couple of thoughts. And I like the idea of the depression and the association between the film industry, the theater, the art. That's an excellent area to actually develop and also write and contribute more into the area of research. So I'm more than happy to kind of support that particular research activity in any way that I can to take this agenda forward, to see how film industry, for example, or the art forms, how they manifest mental illness. Sometimes it can be seen very stereotyping, and it can cause lots of stigma. So maybe our effort in those areas could be seeing how films or the theater or arts, how that can become more positive contributor to addressing stigma around mental health issues. So I just stopped here. It was so fascinating to listen to you all. I'm actually driving, so I'm actually using this time also to listen to you all. Wonderful. And I think, sir, thanks for allowing me to speak, and I could hear your direction for your students. So wonderful to see you all. Great time, great contribution to the literature. Thank you.
Thank you.
If you have got any questions, you can ask me, but I'm happy. I just jumped in just to see what's happening there. Thank you.
Sir, actually, Dr. Jose Anthony signed in, but I think he was busy with some other duties too.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So I think the student, I think Kirti, I didn't get her name. Was it Kirti or Kirti? I don't know what. Kirti, yeah. I think I think those three students who really made those presentations about the mental health, mental illness. Yeah, I think it's a very fascinating area to actually work on. The other thing is about the labeling that we actually attribute to people. I think we need to question, we need to challenge those assumptions on which we actually operate on, even the definitions that we have. The idea, I think the research scholar was talking about the coping and resilience. These are two important, different, distinct terms. And so anyway, I just stop here. But it's interesting to listen to the research scholars and why we do that. The other point is about these people from marginalized sections. Why would we actually rate them and label them as 53% of students are not coping well? So I think we have to really change the narratives and the paradigms, because we're not actually labeling those children as having poor or they are not resilient. I think there is a fundamental ideological positioning about how do we treat our community. Even now, through our research, we are trying to label, isn't it? Anyway, that is a debate. Sorry, stop here. Thank you.
So, okay, sir. So where from you sign in, sir?
So I'm from Australia.
Okay, sir. Okay, thank you for your good comments.
Hello, Francis G.
Kaisa, sir.
Hello. How are you?
I'm good. I just happened to see that there were some students doing some mental health based stuff, and then I thought I just wanted to listen to them. That's all.
Yeah, that's great. Nice. That's great.
Yeah,
it's really great to have your comments on her paper.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Anyway, I only just heard what they presented, so they would have actually addressed all of them. So these are my comments are in general.
Everyone,
I just wanted to really say, I just want to say to all the students, it is wonderful. It's great to see them actually talk about their research very openly. So courageous, well done. So I just want to appreciate all the students who are taking up, and also your teachers. Trying to promote that in an international platform. I just happened to drive and I saw this on the Facebook. That is why I just jumped in.
Yeah, very recently I had a chat with Venkat sir. Yeah, and I hope things are going on well with. We will
Yeah,
get in touch with Abraham.
Yeah, that's fine. Thank you.
Still, one of your gift is with me, which I have received for you from Nepal.
I'll collect it later. All right.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Francis.
Yeah, thanks.
Okay.
Thank you very much, sir. The participants, please come forward. We are getting good comments from Australia too. So Kirti, my question is to you now. Why it motivated to you to select such a topic, depression and dislocation, based on movie analysis?
Hello.
Kirti.
Sir, ഞാൻ മലയാളത്തിൽ പറഞ്ഞാലോ എല്ലാവർക്കും ഒബ്ജക്ഷൻ ഇല്ലാന്നുണ്ടെങ്കിൽ?
It's okay. I think they will permit you.
സാർ കാരണം എന്ന് വെച്ചാൽ ഞാൻ ആദ്യമേ എടുത്ത ടോപ്പിക്ക് സൂയിസൈഡ് ആൻഡ് ഡിപ്രഷൻ ഇൻ അഡോളസൻസ് ആയിരുന്നു. കാരണം 2 കൊല്ലം മുന്നേ ഞാൻ എക്സ്പീരിയൻസ് ചെയ്ത നല്ലൊരു അതായത് ഞാൻ നല്ല രീതി ഫേസ് ചെയ്തൊരു പ്രോബ്ലം ആയിരുന്നു ഡിപ്രഷൻ എന്ന് പറയുന്നത്. അപ്പോൾ സാറ് ഇപ്പൊ പെട്ടെന്ന് ഇങ്ങനെ ഒരു പറഞ്ഞപ്പോൾ എനിക്ക് ആദ്യമേ വന്ന ടോപ്പിക്ക് ഇത് സെലക്ട് ചെയ്യാൻ പേപ്പർ നമുക്ക് ചെയ്യാന്ന് പറഞ്ഞപ്പോൾ എനിക്ക് ആദ്യമേ മനസ്സിൽ വന്ന ടോപ്പിക്കാണ് ഡിപ്രഷൻ എന്ന് പറയുന്നത്. അപ്പോൾ അത് പ്രത്യേകിച്ച് ഈ ഒരു സമയത്ത് അഡോളസൻസിലാവുമ്പോൾ കുറച്ചും കൂടെ അത് നന്നായിരിക്കും എന്ന് എനിക്ക് തോന്നി. അപ്പോൾ അതുകൊണ്ടാണ്, അതായത് ഇപ്പൊ കുറച്ചും കൂടെ അതിനെപ്പറ്റി റീസെർച്ച് ചെയ്താൽ അതായത് ഞാൻ എന്താ പറയുന്ന ഞാൻ ചിന്തിക്കുന്ന അല്ലെങ്കിൽ ഞാൻ കുറച്ചും കൂടെ കാണുന്ന കുറെ ചോദ്യങ്ങളുണ്ട്. അപ്പോൾ അതൊക്കെ വെച്ചിട്ടാണ് ഞാൻ ഈ ഒരു ടോപ്പിക് എടുത്തത്. പിന്നെ മൂവി അനാലിസിസ് ആകുമ്പോൾ നമുക്ക് അതായത് നമ്മുടെ സാധാരണക്കാരുടെ ഒരു പ്രശ്നങ്ങൾ മറ്റുള്ളവരുടെ മുമ്പിൽ നമുക്ക് എടുത്തു വരാൻ പറ്റത്തില്ല. അതായത് ഇപ്പൊ സാധാരണ രീതിയിൽ സാധാരണ ജനങ്ങളുടെ പ്രശ്നങ്ങൾ പെട്ടെന്ന് പുറം ലോകം അറിയുന്നില്ല. അതിപ്പോ ഒരു മൂവി എടുക്കുകയാണെങ്കിൽ അല്ലെങ്കിൽ സെലിബ്രിറ്റി, ഇപ്പം SSR ഈ ഇടയ്ക്ക് ഒരു 2019 SS സുശാന്ത് സിംഗ് രാജ്പുത്ത്. അപ്പോൾ അദ്ദേഹത്തിന്റെ കേസ് എടുക്കുന്നത് ഹിസ് വാസ് എ സെലിബ്രിറ്റി. സോ അദ്ദേഹത്തിന്റെ കേസിൽ വന്നപ്പോൾ പെട്ടെന്ന് വൈഡ് കോൺട്രവേഴ്സി ആയി. അതായത് ഇപ്പോഴും നിലനിൽക്കുന്ന ഒരു കോൺട്രവേഴ്സിയാണ് സൂയിസൈഡ് ആണോ മർഡർ ആണോ എന്നുള്ള രീതിയിൽ. അപ്പോൾ എനിക്ക് മൂവി അനാലിസിസ് ആകുമ്പോൾ കുറച്ചും കൂടെ മറ്റുള്ളവരിൽ അത് എത്തിക്കുക, അതായത് മൂവീസ് നമ്മൾ ഒരുവിധം കാണുന്നില്ല, അപ്പം മറ്റുള്ളവരിൽ ഇത് എത്തും എന്നുള്ള രീതിയിലാണ് ഞാൻ അങ്ങോട്ട് പോയത്. അതുപോലെ ഇത് എൻ്റെ മാത്രം സജഷൻ അല്ല, ജോസാറാണ് പറഞ്ഞത്. മൂവീസ് അനാലിസിസ് ആകുമ്പോൾ കുറച്ചും കൂടെ നല്ലതായിരിക്കും ജോസാറാണ് പറഞ്ഞത്. സോ ഇറ്റ്സ് എ സ്പെഷ്യൽ താങ്ക്സ് ടു ജോസാർ. അപ്പോൾ അതായിരിക്കും കുറച്ചും കൂടെ നല്ലതെന്ന് എനിക്ക് തോന്നിയിട്ടാണ് ഞാൻ സൂയിസൈഡ് ഡിപ്രഷൻ കൊണ്ട് അത് തന്നെ മുന്നോട്ട് പോയത്. അപ്പോൾ എന്നെ കണക്ട് ചെയ്യാൻ പറ്റുന്ന ഒരു ടോപ്പിക് ആയതുകൊണ്ട് എനിക്കത് എക്സ്പ്രസ് ചെയ്യാൻ പറ്റും എന്ന് തോന്നി. അതുകൊണ്ടാണ് ഞാൻ ഈ ടോപ്പിക്ക് മെയിൻലി എടുക്കാനുള്ള കാരണം. താങ്ക് യു സർ.
Okay, good. Kirti, it was your personal interest and the enthusiasm you showed on this particular topic. Anyway, it was a very nice presentation, and my little suggestion is this one. If you are keeping certain kind of attention on the analysis part of that film and the theory, that will make certain, that will take time, and that is definitely is not a problem. But by experience, you can make that analytic part very well. Then it will become somewhat more attractive. Okay, so merging that with theory and the analysis, that will quite improving. It has to improve. Okay, just my personal suggestion only. Okay, Lita Marin Thomas, my question is regarding this one. So development, identity induced struggles regarding, you were telling about, identity induced stigma, how it is affecting their this resilience actually. What is their lived experience? Could you just convey the idea?
Yeah, sir, actually, the identity-based stigma is existing among the scheduled caste or scheduled tribe community because many occasions the discrimination is coming from that side because in our society the social stigma is existing very much like they are coming from such a poor background and they were such and such situation. And this kind of insisting from the societal level, it can be persist through the new generation also. So sometimes if in the classroom itself, or some kind of discrimination is going there, how many of SCs are present in this class, this type of classification is always present. And then the other children looks upon them as they have to be discriminated. These type of social stigmas are now also present. Sir, I can't hear you.
Thank you, Lita. It was muted. That's why. Okay. Any questions from the participants? Any queries, comments, please? I think no more. Somebody? Okay, we have heard about various kind of fragmentation of self and identity. In this situation, what we are actually to do? This is the question. We are talking about the social work responses. In what way we can intervene, in what we can respond to the particular problem like this. So I think accurate and empathic self-object experiences are very necessary for maintaining a stable psychic structure and for living in a self-cohesive ego state. This, then only we can help ourselves to escape from this kind of fragmentation of self, I think. So that is the relevance of social work profession. And we can, I think we can work very collectively towards the same. So anyway, very wonderful.
Some question in the chat box, I think.
Nothing visible, Abhishek.
Aryan Devan.
Okay.
Aryan Dev.
Okay. This question over to Lita. What is the role of resilience on coping mechanism?
Yes, sir.
What
is the role of resilience on coping mechanism?
Yeah.
Yeah, it is very much related on the resilience and coping, because if we found resilience is the coming back to actual the normal position, and coping is somewhat the adjustment. And if we couldn't adjust well, we cannot back to the normal stage. It is the bounce backing system.
Okay. Anyway, the question is, answer is clear to Aryan, right? Thank you, Aryan. So any more questions? So congratulations to all the stars of the day. You all presented it very well. I think it's in a very wonderful way, very crispy way. And this is the platform only we can grow up. So you people try to make use of it. So congratulations and best wishes to meet you again as a brilliant academicians in the future in such or similar platforms like. So thank you all once again. Now I handing over to the MC's chair. Vijay, Abhishek.
Over to Abhishek.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Over to you.
Respected HOD Dr. Jose Antony, sir, Dr. Reshma Bharadwaj, faculties and all the participants, a big thanks to all. It is an honor for me to get the opportunity to thank you all on behalf of the Department of Social Work, SSU Skaradi. I extend a heartfelt thanks to all presenters and participants who spared their valuable time to grace the occasion. Today, we had an opportunity to listen to different perspectives on the topic mental health and fragmentation. I also thank Dr. K.K. Boban sir for moderating throughout the session. Once again, I thank everyone who contributed their efforts and time to make the session a wonderful experience. Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Hello, everybody, please fill the feedback form which is in the chat box.